Here's a scenario. You just finished a $5,000 job. Customer's happy, they paid on time, everything went smoothly. But suddenly you realize you don't have anything booked for the next week and a half. So you fire up Yelp or Craigslist to go look for leads. And now you're back to square one hunting for the next customer. You find a job, you complete the job, only for the cycle to continue. It's exhausting and it's costing you a fortune. Acquiring a new customer costs on average 5 times more than keeping an existing one. But most contractors treat every job like it's one and done. They're constantly chasing new leads instead of trying to continue to work with the customers that they've already got. Today, I'm breaking down how to build a system that turns one-time jobs into recurring revenue, why this is the fastest path to predictable income, and the exact framework that makes it happen automatically. Okay, so here's why one-time jobs are keeping you broke and what you can start to think about in terms of real dollars and cents. The math is, let's say you spend $200 in marketing. This is 10 hours, give or take. So what we can do is we can say, okay, we have our dollar amount, we have our time investment, and then we'll put the line over here. So we'll say that this is marketing, right? Marketing is $200 and 10 hours. You get one new customer acquired. That customer hires for you for a job. And then let's say that that job is $3,000. So let's say a customer is worth $3,000. And let's say this takes 12 hours. And you can change this around, right? Let's say that it's actually 6 hours to get that. Whatever the numbers are that are right for you. Effectively, your customer acquisition cost, how much it costs you to get a new customer, is going to eat into that $1,000, right? Because this is 10 hours that you can't spend on something else. And maybe a more realistic number is 4 hours. So let's say that you spend 2/3 of the amount of time marketing that you do actually completing jobs. Now, your actual outcome here, profit, is that for each customer, you spent $200, so that's $800 net, right? And the point is that that's very expensive, right? If you're able to get $1,000 for 6 hours of work net, that means that 4 hours of work, $600 to $700 that you're leaving on the table because it's an expense rather than something that's driving revenue. So the question becomes very quickly is how can we turn that person into a repeat client? I hire you twice a year for a job over the next 5 years. That's the same $1,000 profit per job, but now you don't have to spend 204 hours. Let's say that this is job one, right? This is job one. Now job two, 0. You don't have to spend any money on the lead. And then let's say it's 30 minutes, so 0.5 hours. This is equals one new job, right? So rather than thinking about the dollars per new customers, you can think about dollars per new job and time per new job. And obviously this will stack up over time depending on what service that you're providing. Repeat customers mowing lawns, the mow, blow, and goes, that's very different than somebody that you're doing all their trees for. Let's say they trim their trees once a year, or they trim their trees once every 2-3 years, depending on what it is. You can start to get a cadence for each customer depending on the service that you're providing them. It's going to happen once again at some point in the future. So in this case, job number 2 means that we got 0.5 hours plus 6. So this is 6.5 hours, right? 3 minus 2 is 1. Again, that's $1,000 gross profit, but we don't have anything coming out of it, right? Let's see. The key here is going to be, when do we reach out to that customer? How do I know, how do I manage my customer base? That's really the key here. Because every time we get a new customer, at some point, it's almost like we need to set our watch for 6 months in the future that says, hey, reach out to this person 6 months from now and ask if they want that same service again. And you can bring a little bit of industry expertise here, right? Because we know how often in your area you need to trim trees, or that same tree that you trimmed at some point in the future will also need to have that same job again. So whatever the average time frame is here, that can be your recommended next step once you complete that first job. And that's kind of the mindset that we want to get in. So let's keep going through here a bit. Basically, I mean, we've got an infinite return compared to that first job on money, right? So this is 200 This went from $200 to $0. We love to see that. It went from 4 hours to 0.5 hours. So you cut the time in a quarter, right? Less than a quarter, 1 out of 8, 1/8 of the time, infinite return on dollars. And all this cost really was the mental effort or the system to remind yourself to reach out to this person in a way that feels professional and is not overstepping any boundaries, because everybody's got their own boundaries. This leads to building real wealth. You start to understand that you're focusing on getting more customers as well as getting more value from the customers that you already have, because both of those things are the only ways that you can grow. One is you can get more customers. Two is that you can sell more to your existing customers. Exterior maintenance is perfect for recurring revenue. Because the work naturally repeats. Gutters need cleaning once or twice a year. Pressure washing should happen annually. Windows are getting dirty at a certain rate, depending where you live. Landscaping needs seasonal maintenance. None of this is one and done. You as a contractor can do is to be proactive on the customer outreach, to call them back based on some sort of an expectation that you set once you're completing that first job. Because the customer is going to forget. They see somebody else's ad, they try somebody new, they procrastinate until the problem gets worse. So you're leaving money on the table by not doing them the service of reminding them about what the next step is. And some sort of a system around follow-up is what makes it a lot easier. When you build a system that keeps you on the top of mind for your customers, makes it easy for your customers to rebook, you start to actually capture that recurring revenue instead of losing it. So I'm going to go into a little bit of a 4-part system that we see a lot of success with at Breezy. I'm going to go back to our little screen here. So again, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get repeat customers. So we're not just spending money on marketing only for that customer to never talk to us again. So part 1 is capturing future opportunities during the existing job. So opportunity during the existing job. This can look like a few different things. This can look like notes about what else needs to be done on the property. I'm going to put these as questions, right? This is something that you can take 5 minutes to do at the end of the job, right? Or while you're doing it, just keep some sort of a system of notes based on the property address and based on the customer name. What else needs to be done on the property? You can answer the question of when will this exact same job need to be done again based on what you've seen. And you can be honest here. We're not trying to get one over on the customer. If it's 2 years, it's 2 years. If it's 10 years, it's 10 years. Let's say you're doing a roof, right? How long is a roof good for? Usually somewhere between 20 to 40 years is roughly what you see in roofing. So at least around the warranties, that kind of thing. But what you could say is, hey, this roof's good for 20 to 40 years. But what we see is on average once a year, it's good to take a look at it. It's good to inspect it. And then every other year, you'll probably have to replace some sort of a shingle, or there'll be some repair that has to be done, maybe every 2 or 3 years. And what you as a contractor can do is you can say, hey, I'll come back and inspect it for free at that later date, right? And then you do that. Just like I imagine that you did a quote for free. This is the same thing, but now you're getting an additional touch point with this customer. You're getting another opportunity to see what else they need help with, because maybe there's something that you can do in your service book of business that's not necessarily the same exact job. It's just another time where you're spending time with your customer, getting to know them, getting to know their pain point that you might be able to help them out with. And you could always get an opportunity for a referral. More time spent with customers that have bought from you is a good thing, even if they're not actively paying you. So this is part 1, right? Capture future opportunity during the existing job. You know, if you can do an irrigation repair, if you can do a fence repair while you see something like, oh, that hardscape is going to become an issue 6 months from now. There's all these things that the more you can capture that data, that information, and associate it to a customer name, an address, and a phone number with a date of when you should take action on that again, that's huge, right? So let's say that we're starting to scope a future job. Basically, you're building out another quote. What this want to be associated with is, we'll call this a future job, with the existing customer, which is their name, their address, their phone number, right? That all goes on the same thing. This can be a notes app link. This could be a Google Sheet. This could be a Google Doc. This doesn't need to be anything fancy. Basically, all you need is some way to get back to that note and have all this information associated with it with a reminder. This is the biggest thing. I feel myself getting heated about this because this is how you do it. You have to have a reminder to go back to that thing and take that action. This can look like a time block on your calendar. This can look like you automatically send yourself an email in the future, right? You can have a list of jobs that sit here, your future jobs, and you review your future jobs once a week. Either one of these strategies will work, because let's say that I put a reminder for myself 6 months from now to reach out to John Doe at 123 My Street, that this is when the exact same job needed to be done again. And when I was there, there were other things that I saw on the property that could be done. Bonus points for picture, right? Extra bonus points if this becomes part of your post-job report, right? Let's say we just did this $1,000 job. What you might call next steps or recommendations, or if you're selling the value, right? Any of those could go on a post-job report where you talk about what you did. Here's the $3,000. It cost me $2,000. I got compensated $1,000 for my 6 hours. Whatever goes on that invoice. And then, oh, by the way, here's some professional recommendations I have so you can save yourself some future money by repairing this up front. Goes straight into what else needs to be done on the property. When will this exact same job need to be done again? Here's some pictures that I saw. Those are the types of things that we're doing. It's doable. It's a lot of work to do all this and maintain all this. So having a really good, tight note-taking system, you could put it in a fancy CRM like a HubSpot, or something as simple as just a Google Sheet with a list of customer names and then a link in that Google Sheet to a Google Doc. If I was going to do it, it would look something like this, right? Customer sheet. This would be customer 1, customer 2, customer 3. Let's say that's name, address, last service date, next service date, link to notes. Got all their information here. And then what you put in the link to notes is create a Google Doc. Again, this is all free. Customer 1 notes. Here are notes about a customer. We can put in service details. You can do all this stuff. The key then is you take that link and you put it in that spreadsheet. So now when you see, okay, customer 1, address, last service date, next service date, boom, you open the notes, and now we're on the notes for this customer. So little things like that don't take a ton of time to do, but keep you lightweight enough that you can maintain this. So you show up to the customer, you search their name using just the search function in the sheet. I went to customer 1 today. There's customer 1 on my spreadsheet. I'm going to go open the notes. You put in the date. January 20, completed next service for gutters in 6 months. June, or I guess that would be, yeah, June 28th. Recommended quarterly service plan. They said they'd think about it, and I said to ask in 2 weeks. I'm just making up the scenario, right? This didn't actually happen. But again, all this lives on our customer sheet because we have these building notes. And you can see, let's say that I have a relationship with a customer for 2 years. This note is going to get really long. So I go back and I say, hey, customer 1, how you doing? Remember last year in January when we completed your gutter cleaning work, and then I helped you out with that second service in June? Well, there was a big rainstorm in July, and I'm really glad that you did that work because you probably saved yourself a bunch of money in water repairs that you didn't have to do because we cleaned your gutters. That's why this is so important. And that's why I recommend the quarterly service plan, because we can save you a lot of money. That was a $400 service that, had you been part of the recommended quarterly service plan, you would have saved $200. And I expect that we'll probably have to do this again next year in the gutter cleaning. So even just gutter cleaning alone, if that's all you do, you'll still be saving some money, or at least breaking even. And then you'd have access to all these other services. The notes can really frame the conversation. And if they say, no, I'm fine, I don't need it, we say, awesome, no problem. I'll follow up again, if it's okay with you, in 3 more months, just about your gutters, because it seems like that's really what you care about, and preventing that water damage, which is totally fair. And then you follow up in 3 months, and maybe something changes, and they are down for the plan. This is how you really build those relationships. And there are little things that, if you have a tight system of notes associated with people and associated with properties, those will go a long way because you have the context for what's gone on in the past so that you know how best to work with them in the future. This person likes to get an email versus that person likes a phone call versus that person likes a text message. There are just all these little things that you can capture about your individual customers that, again, you have to understand how you like to work. If I don't like to send emails. I hate emails. So if I'm forced to work with somebody that only uses emails, it's going to be really hard for me. That's just honest, right? And that's okay, because there's a whole bunch of people that will work with me via text message and phone calls. That's fine. So it's a balance in terms of what and how you're addressing your customers. But the point is that a little bit of memory goes a long way, and helpful reminders can always be opted out of, right? Just say, you can opt out of these at any time. Tell me to go talk to somebody else. That's fine, but it's professional for you to do that. You want to frame yourself as a trusted advisor who's looking out for their property. Again, most contractors here are like relying on their memory. They think they'll remember to reach out to that customer in 6 months, but they don't. And even if they do, it's manual, it doesn't scale. There's no way that they can actually continue to do that. There's a lot of automation opportunities. So you can get some system in place where the customer automatically gets added to a follow-up sequence based on the type of work. You say, okay, this was a gutter cleaning job. That triggers a set of reminders 6 months later that it's time for the next seasonal cleaning. Hey, we did this job for you last year. It's time to do it again this year. Same thing with landscaping. They get a reminder for seasonal maintenance throughout the year. Hey, this is what happens in fall. This is what happens in winter. This is what happens in spring. This is what we recommend in summer. Let's say you're in a place like Denver where you get all 4 seasons pretty strong. You can go from snow blowing to an irrigation repair and water turn-ons in the spring, to tree trimming and fence repair in the summer, to leaf removal and cleanup in the fall, and turn off the irrigation lines, turn off the water, and then boom, you're back in winter again with snow blowing. So like literally you can put together a comprehensive package and start to incentivize discounts on it. Back to the screen again. The idea of a maintenance plan, because if you think about all the different reminders, future opportunities of jobs, turns into, well, what's a package that can cover all of these potential issues? And this is what starts to get both very powerful and very difficult, because it opens up risk if it's going to cost you more to actually deliver on a package than you get. Let's say that you have something, I'm just going to use Denver as an example because Denver's a great, all 4 seasons, a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of single family homes. Denver's a good example here, right? So let's say I have the Denver exterior package, which includes spring, summer, fall, and winter. So bold this, bold that. For Denver, what are we going to do in the spring? We're going to turn on the irrigation, turn on the water after the winter's over, and do some irrigation repairs, inspection and repair. And we can put a cap on this, right? Let's say repairs up to $200. Whatever your normal rate would be for that job, if you were going to do a new quote for somebody that you just met, up to $200 worth of quoted service, right? In the summer, what are we going to do? Some fence repair, right? More barbecues, whatever, right? Minor or hardscaping. Again, we can put a dollar amount on this, up to $200, to $500. You see what I'm starting to do is anchor all of these things in a value. Because when you see the price of what you charge for this, then you start to see, oh, that makes complete sense. And also the timing of the payments and all this kind of thing. That's really where this starts to make sense. In the fall, we're going to do yard cleanups. We're going to turn off the irrigation. And then in the winter, we're going to blow snow. We could also do some gutters here, right? And, maybe that's $100. Or turn off irrigation, maybe that's $50. Gutter cleaning could be more depending on the size of the house. Let's say that's $200. Big house, snow blowing up to 3 times. What's really important when you start building out these packages is that you put guards on it. You make it a clear scope for the package, because that does 2 things. One, it makes it clearer to the customer what they can take advantage of, rather than just, oh, $2,000, I'll take care of all your exterior maintenance for the year. That can get really expensive for you, and for the customer, they don't know what that means necessarily. So that's why doing something like this goes a long way. Now, pricing of a package is definitely the trickiest part. Well, let's say I put down a whole bunch of services. Let's say the fair value to you, if you were going to do all these services, I'm not saying necessarily what's on this screen because I don't want to go through all that individually. But let's say that you put together a package that if you were quoting everything individually, and you're gonna have to go out to the service, out to the address, do the thing, go back home in time. Let's say the fair market value of the package is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. What did I say? No, I said $3,500. Okay, a la carte pricing is $3,500. What are we gonna do in order to make this feel like you can actually provide a discount or the customer is getting some deal here? What you can do is you can say, hey, it would be $3,500. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, let's say more. Let's say this is $4,000. Just for some easy math. If you sign up now, I'm going to give you a 25% discount, right? And you pay monthly or you pay quarterly, right? So every spring, summer, fall, winter, $3,000 divided by 4. That's going to be your payment. What we're going to do is if you pay upfront now, I'll do it for $2,000. If you pay me upfront now and we get a year commitment. And you might be saying, David, that's ridiculous. I can't afford to do all these things. This is package a la carte if you were going to go out and quote everything individually. And you were going to really, like, the whole all-in, most expensive way of doing these jobs would be $4,000. If they sign this right then and there, the next thing you do is you go out and you create quotes and scopes of work for all this stuff right then and there. Because then you know how much it's actually going to cost you to fulfill those jobs. Okay, it's going to be $50 to turn on the water. Okay, an irrigation inspection takes about 30 minutes. Maybe that's by a skilled technician. Maybe that's $100 or $50, depending on the size of the property. Repairs up to $200. Okay, I'm on the hook for $400 here. 200 plus 500. I'm on the hook for $700 worth of stuff here. But I can deliver it since I've already quoted it. And I already know what it's going to do. I know what it's going to be. I can deliver this for $350. I can deliver for half the price because I already did the quote. I already know what's going to go on. I can deliver this for much cheaper. I can deliver this for $150. I can deliver this for $250 because you've already done the quote. You already know, you understand the property. You take all these notes, you put this together, you save it in your folder, and then when it comes time to come back to it, you already did the work on the front end. So this is $250 plus $350. Okay, how much is this going to cost? 1 plus 5 plus 2. Okay, this was going to be $350, but now it's going to be way cheaper because you already did the quote. Let's say now it's $300. And then winter, same deal. So again, the numbers aren't going to tie here. This 4,000 doesn't tie to the sum of this. But the point is that when you create a package, we could do it here. I could do the math. But when you create the package, the a la carte price is if you were going to quote everything individually. That's what you want to anchor people to. And then as they sign up now and pay quarterly or they pay up front, you can give them steep discounts on that because then that allows you, this is why, and you can tell them this, you can discount it because it saves you time and able to actually do all the scope up front. It's cheaper for you to do. It's cheaper for you to fulfill if you get a commitment. And that's just the truth. Because if you're sitting there on the property and you know the whole scope of the work that you're going to do for the next entire year, you can price it out. Pretty straightforward. You know that for $2,000, they're going to get all these different things. Just make the quotes then and there. And then come back, sure, it'll be a little bit different. Everything is more expensive and takes longer than we think it is. Fact of life, because if you're an optimistic person like me, that's how we tend to think. But you still got a little bit of wiggle room. And what's even better is you got $2,000 up front. So you can afford to hire some labor and you can get some prepayments on. You can go and buy materials. You just move your cash forward as well. And even for the quarterly payments, you can say, I'm not going to show up until you pay your quarterly payment or whatever it is that the relationship is. Half to show up, half on delivery within 30 days, whatever. And there's lots of ways that you can set this up too. A billing provider like Stripe will let you create a subscription plan, charges based on different charges automatically to credit cards based on certain timeframes for certain packages and certain things like that. And then all of this can become an exterior facing offer on something like a website or on a one-page flyer that then you can distribute around the neighborhood. And if the customer is willing to, that signs up for this, is willing to give you a testimonial, you can say, hey, Joe at 1234 My Street just signed up for this package. He's really excited for this reason. Boom, that becomes a flyer that goes to everybody on the street. That's how we just went over the course of 30-ish minutes here. We went from one customer that net $800 and took 10 hours to deliver, right? 10 hours for $800 versus now we just created an exterior maintenance package that even if nobody ever buys that, it shows two things. It shows you what your services are and it shows you roughly what the prices will be. That can sit on a website or can sit on a flyer. Stepping through the middle point of having a reminder point with what needed to be done next on that property. So I know that this video has been a lot longer and much less structured than some of the other ones that I've done. It's a new format. I like it better because I can be a bit more off the cuff. I've been doing scripts up until this point, but this is more just based on the experience that we've had at Breezy and how we've been helping contractors think through this stuff. We do a lot of stuff built in to our systems and our process that allows this upselling, cross-selling, different services, different packages, preventative fall maintenance packages, all sorts of different things that so long as we know what this service is going to be and we understand what the relative commitment is to get that done, it's pretty easy for us to find something that's going to help build the customer relationship. Even if the margin isn't as good as we'd like it to be, it gets us in the door and continues to build those relationships. This can be done at any scale. If you have more opportunity, if you're a bigger company, like Breezy is doing a decent amount of business these days, we have built a custom system to do all this stuff. At any scale, you can do something where you're taking notes on the job with the next recommendation and a date that you can go back and do it again. So here's my question. What's one thing that you could do this week to start building repeat revenue? Maybe it's a simple maintenance package. Maybe it's an automated follow-up sequence. Start small, test it, and refine it. Let me know in the comments. One thing. That's my challenge to you. Let me know if you want help from Breezy. We help a lot of people make more money easier than ever. Whether you are looking for more jobs in markets that we operate in, or you're looking for advice or systems, processes, I'm excited to figure things out together. And I'll see you on the next one.